When there were exactly 2 months left before the hearing of Kamila Valieva's case in cause, the Nikulin court of Moscow accepted for consideration the claim of one of the medical specialists who worked with the figure skater, Philip Shvetsky, Taheo Sepult, a German journalist who made several films about doping in Russia. His authorship, among other things, belongs to the plot about the doping scandal around Valieva at the 2022 Olympics in Beijing, in which Shvetsky is repeatedly mentioned. It is worth recalling that at the end of October last year, as the president of the Sambo 70 Sports and Education Center, Rinat Layshev said at the time, Shvetsky stopped cooperating with the Atari Tutberidze group, in which Valieva trains, and this decision was not related to what happened at the Olympics. Shvetsky himself then said that he was a doctor of the Russian national team and not of some separate school, and he accompanied athletes from both the Crystal and from groups of other wonderful coaches. Currently, Philip Shvetsky is listed as a specialist of the sports national team of the Russian Federation in the list of the Russian national figure skating team, published on the website of the Ministry of Sports of the Russian Federation. At least from this fact it follows that the Russian sports leadership has no claims against Shvetsky about his participation in the Valieva case. As, probably, there are no complaints about the rest of the specialists, coaches and doctors who were involved in working with the figure skater. At least, the suspension from professional activity of any of them was not reported. Meanwhile, every mention of Valieva in the media continues to be accompanied by offensive comments from the side of the quick-to-label readers. And, oddly enough, they can be understood. There is a fact of doping detection in her body, but there are no clear explanations either from Kamila or from her entourage. Although these explanations should be given by it, and not only, and not even so much, by Valieva herself, and we have already written about this repeatedly. Apparently, it's worth reminding again why. Valieva was 15 years old at the time of the anti-doping rule violation. According to the World Anti-Doping Code, a figure skater is a protected person. This means softening the standard anti-doping rules in relation to it, in particular the thesis the athlete is responsible for the contents of his doping sample. Special attention in such cases is paid to the actions of the athlete's environment, coaches, doctors, parents. And the role of the environment is not just to suggest how not to do it, but not to allow anti-doping rules to be violated, since a minor athlete may not be aware of responsibility for his actions. The fact that the environment should not contribute to the violation of the anti-doping code by a minor athlete is self-evident. Not to mention the fact that I would look at that Russian figure skater, adult or not, who would take something without the consent of the coaching staff and doctors. Admitting that Valieva was such a brilliant child at the age of 15, that she bought drugs and dietary supplements for herself in the store, of course, is possible. But this version is simply ridiculous for anyone who has at least the slightest idea of how Russian figure skating works. I would like to hope that Kaz will not believe this either. In no case can any athlete, no matter if he is an adult or not, in accordance with the anti-doping code, be considered guilty if a prohibited substance is found in his possession. And this has to be read, alas, regularly, and not only in the comments of readers who do not know the topic, but also those who need to understand the question or, at least, select the correct wording. In a number of cases, athletes were acquitted after a positive doping test, that is, they did not find any fault in their actions. The last and very loud one happened to the athlete Sergei Shubenkov. They found a banned drug in his possession, which, as he was able to prove, got into the body accidentally, in the form of crumbs from pills prescribed to his son. As a result, the verdict is no fault or negligence. It was this verdict that was issued against Valieva by the Disciplinary Anti-Doping Committee of the Russian Anti-Doping Agency, RUSADA. However, this verdict was delayed for so long that the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, managed to exercise its right and send the case for direct trial to Kaz, which was joined by the International Skating Union, ISU. And then, quite unexpectedly, the decision of the Disciplinary Anti-Doping Committee to acquit the figure skater was protested in Lausanne by RUSADA itself. Having studied the motives of the decision, Rusada believes that the athlete's side could not prove the complete absence of her guilt at the level established by the rules. As at the stage of submitting the case to the disciplinary anti-doping committee, Rusada is convinced that the athlete is guilty of violating the rules, but it is minimal, and a reasonable sanction could be a warning. Rusada accompanied its protest with such a statement. But, as before, not a word about how this fault is formulated. And even more so about the role of Valieva's entourage, although this is the most important question. However, everyone is silent about this, including WADA, which demands the maximum punishment for Kamila, but is silent about sanctions against other persons involved in the case. Although immediately after the Olympics, the World Anti-Doping Agency was eager to investigate their actions. To be honest, all of the above brings up one very unpleasant thought: they are going to expose Valieva herself as guilty in the Valieva case. To play a kind of arrangement. To ask Kamila to be silent and not to say too much, which she does without giving out any interviews, although I'm sure she could tell a lot. And in return, hope that Kaz will take pity and forgive the young athlete, and at the same time will not touch the elders. Of course, these are only subjective feelings, but it is very difficult to get rid of them in the light of the current situation around the Olympic champions case. But there is little hope for unrequited pity for Valieva from the Court of Arbitration for Sport. A lot of people are under pressure, both the Western media and, alas, Kamila's colleagues, American figure skaters, who remind them of their empty cases of Olympic medals at every opportunity. Although they are exactly the same empty for the Japanese and, what can I say, the rest of the Olympic champions from the Russian team. In addition, Kaz has already entered into Kamila's situation once last year in Beijing, when he allowed her to go to the start of the personal competitions of the Olympics. But the grandfather's glass helped their aversion that many later laughed at. In order for the court to decide in her favor a second time, we need a clear explanation of what happened. It is still possible to protect Valieva and save her for the future of Russian figure skating. But this requires the truth and only the truth. Dear friends, what do you think about this? We invite you all to comment because we are sure that you have something to say. Thank you for watching the video to the end. See you soon.